Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hey there, and welcome to ya. Good to be back. It's Tuesday, August 15, and Susan should be there, I hope. Hello.
I am.
Oh, good. Well,
I know, it's anticlimactic. How come it's anticlimactic?
Well, but, you start looking at, this is now 41 counts. And
Lindsey Graham escaped.
Yeah, he did, damn it. 13 counts against Trump, and that brings the grand total to, he's now facing 91 criminal charges in all the cases.
And the joke is there's probably at least 4,000 more out there.
God. And this is the guy that it controls an entire party. And still does. They cannot, they're fearful of his base. They cannot quit him. And that's that. He, in all likelihood, I guess, is going to be their nominee. And there is, if he's the nominee, there's always that chance that he could be elected, which I find.
Well, it's a new look for the Republican Party. George Soros not George Soros. What's his name? What's the guy, the representative in The Liar?
I don't know.
Santos. He's running again. It's like the credential. I'm indicted too.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Well, I'm no lawyer, so I don't know if what she's done by going all out and using RICO and all that is
I think it's smart. It allows her to tell the whole story. And it allows her to show how this little cog played into that little cog and how large a conspiracy to overturn the election it is. I think she's doing exactly the right thing.
And here's the other good part. This trial could well be televised.
Yes, and he can't pardon himself.
And he can't pardon himself. So a conviction in this trial, at which probably everybody's saying will happen after the election. But we'll, who the hell knows? We'll see. But the people will be able to see this one. And he's got to show up along with all these other wonderful humans. By the 25th? So within 10 days. And I bet they'll take a mugshot this time. I bet they will. And the thing is, it's just not New York State or Massachusetts or California.
It's Georgia.
A southern state. It's Georgia with a Republican governor and a Republican majority legislature. And the other thing is, all of the people that will be testifying against him
are Republicans.
Exactly.
Are his own folks.
So has he been heard from, or is he finally shut up? And did anything happen to him after he with the judge in Washington?
Not yet.
Not yet. Really?
And I think he's talking about giving a press conference later on today. I don't know how he does that. And, and when people say that he's allowed, that doesn't happen, I just want everybody to think of how many times they have heard the phrase that it cannot be commented on because it is a subject of litigation. Now, that's sometimes upon the lawyer's advice to shut the F up. You'll only hurt yourself. But it's also sometimes because you're going to get in trouble for saying anything because it's against the court's wishes. This is not outlandish. It's not out of hand. It's not unusual. He is simply being treated as a United States citizen.
Right. As she said, as any criminal defendant would be treated.
Right.
Nothing is happening here. Although any other criminal defendant would be in jail by now for contempt.
I think so too.
And I don't know what she's going to do about that, but because that's all that she can do is do that to him. I just can't imagine it though. But that's what we've been saying for years now. Can't imagine it. So we'll see. And
I'm just going to keep saying there is absolutely no asterisk that says when a president performs criminal acts outside the routine course of the presidency, and one would hopefully assume that any criminal act would so be. However, there's no asterisk that says that he can't be pursued or punished. I'm sorry. As a matter of fact, it's exactly the opposite. It's that he, of all people, should be prosecuted.
Right. He took an oath. The other thing that apparently his attorneys are going to be using with the federal case that Jack Smith has brought is that he was merely exercising his First Amendment free speech.
These are his actions, not his speech.
And not only that ain't going to work in Georgia, the free speech thing, because they actually have made it criminal. It is a broad prohibition, I'm reading here, in Georgia against making, quote, a false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or representation in any manner within the jurisdiction of any department or agency of state government. So, and she's relying on that Georgia law a lot because the phrase false statement appears in her indictment more than 100 times. So that's against Georgia.
What a surprise. False statements.
Yeah, but that's his stock in trade.
No, I don't mean to hop, skip, and jump and change the subject, but because we'll talk about it later. But it's the same thing with the little newspaper case in Marion, Kansas. That the police are relying on their own lie as a fact and evidence to get out of the law, and it just doesn't work that way. Yeah, I mean this insistence on lying, about things that they're saying that they could arrest this guy. He didn't have to have a subpoena. They could just go for a search warrant because he had committed, some sort of broken some law, and therefore they could do it. But he didn't. He didn't break any law. That was a fact to be found that was a fact to be found at trial, if there were such a trial. It was not to simply be stated. You can't do that.
Back to Trump. The other thing is that apparently they have a draft speech that was written before the election even took place.
Decrying that it was stolen?
Yes. It was a draft of a speech for Trump, and they've got it, in which he talks about, how it was stolen. There you go. I think she's got a lot more ammo because she subpoenaed a lot of people that Smith is not going to be dealing with. She also she was able to get them where Smith could not or did not choose to. Right. So
right.
And he, I understand, seeing her indictment might well make use of some of what she uncovered that he in fact didn't have. So this will cross-pollinate.
Of course it will.
So, unbelievable. But
the sad part is it won't change
anybody's mind. Well, at some point, it'll change our mind here. They're picking off a few people, but the ones who are, in for life, who've been willingly hoodwinked, have signed on. There's no changing.
No, it's because their goals are not about democracy. What they want is totally different than what the majority of the country wants. And it is why we have to stay vigilant. It is why we have to keep voting and not forget. And I honestly don't think that there's a lot of people that don't feel that way. I don't think anybody, I think people are getting tired, but I don't think they're tired of fighting. And if we are, I'm just going to say, look at what the Ukrainians are doing. All we're asking you to do is to get up and effing vote.
Yeah. Yep. I want to point something else out as well that I saw in the Times yesterday. And that is, it blew me away because it is the thinking and the legal thinking of conservative constitutional scholars that they are making the case that Trump is ineligible to be president.
Mm-hmm.
And they've written, they've done a ton of research, and they're doing it from the conservative legal originalism. They're doing it by
they're hoisting him on his own petard.
Yeah. And one of the people who they wrote an article, it hasn't been published yet. It's going to be published next year by the University of Pennsylvania Law Review. But one of the people who is saying this is a tour de force is a Northwestern and Yale law professor who also was a founder of the Federalist Society.
Yeah, I know the Federalist Society there's some people in there that are actually,
it's hard to believe because they're the ones who have packed the Supreme Court with their ilk.
Yeah.
But here are some, and the two attorneys, and let me just, because it's easily understood even by people who ain't lawyers. They say this, look, and this can be used in lawsuits. Trump is ineligible to be president under a provision of the Constitution that bars people who have engaged in an insurrection from holding government office. Now, this, of course, is a provision that came in after the Civil War, right?
Right.
This is Article, 14, the 14th Amendment. Okay, so this
is not a new argument. We've been talking about getting people in Congress out because of it.
Yes, but it's never been used. At least maybe it was used way back then in 1870 or something, but it ain't been used. And these are all members of the Federalist Society. And their big thing is originalism, which means we're going to interpret the Constitution as the founders' intent with their original meaning. And these guys went back and actually looked at what every word in that meant, how it was used, because words' meanings, get fudged and changed. Yeah. So they did it from an originalist standpoint. And here it is. He says, Donald Trump cannot be president. In fact, he cannot run for president. He cannot hold office. And the only way he could is unless 2/3 of Congress decides to grant him amnesty for his conduct on January 6th. And somebody could, one of the professors says this could easily get into the mix with all of this legal jeopardy, and that this could end up heading to the Supreme Court, a Supreme Court in which this kind of an argument
should prevail.
Yeah. And I guess this article goes on to say there is abundant evidence that Trump engaged in an insurrection, including by setting out to overturn the results of the presidential election, trying to alter vote counts by fraud and intimidation, encouraging bogus slates of competing electors, pressuring the vice president to violate the Constitution, calling for the march on the Capitol, and remaining silent for hours during the attack itself. It is unquestionably fair to say that Trump engaged in the January 6th insurrection through both his actions and his inaction.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I know! And this is coming from, like, people who probably, were thrilled when Alito and all these other jerks got on the court. Yes! Incredible. So that made me feel better.
Well, that's good. Well, sure. I mean, ultra-conservative types are not necessarily un-American. They are, they are interpreting things differently, but never in such a way as to bring down the basic concepts of the country. I think they fundamentally do believe in a democratic republic.
Yeah. They just believe we should stay stuck in 1780.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of a crazy, I don't agree with the whole thing itself, but it is not amongst them necessarily proof of their lack of patriotism or love of democracy or any of that. And we didn't used to think that.
Correct.
We just thought we really disagreed.
Before we get into anything heavier, can I just bring up something mundane, but
sure. Glad to see you got home.
Oh man, well, that's not what I was talking about. Traveling in America. Oh God, yeah. Well, we did. Thank God we got home late, so late. Thank God I had realized I shouldn't do a show Monday because I was out cold until almost noon. Anyway, last night I found myself with a pounding headache. So I went to get some ibuprofen. And I remembered, oh, wait, you're out. And then I thought, no, you bought a new bottle. And then I went and I found the new bottle. And it's not, I had just read an article saying that pharmacists they always buy generic. They don't buy, the
name brand.
Yeah, they don't. They know that's exactly, the same thing. So I thought, well, I'm going to do the smart thing. And I was at a CVS and I got ibuprofen, CVS. I attempted to open the bottle.
I knew this is where we were going. Have you shot it yet?
No, I am holding it now in my hand because I couldn't. And if you have a blinding headache and you are desperately trying to open this bottle, it's not helping the headache. It, in fact, is making it worse. So I finally I stopped. I thought this is not going to work. And the only other thing I had was Tylenol, which I don't think works for anything, but I took it. But I put the bottle right here, thinking that if there was a point in the discussion today where I could bring it up. I also tried it this morning to open it. It is absolutely impregnable.
What are you supposed to do? Push and turn?
Oh, yes, push and turn. And they have on the top of the cap a graphic. They say number 1, and this is all like etched into the top of the cap, the top of the impregnable cap. 1, and then they point to a picture of a cap. 1, press down, obviously, on that. 2, turn. Well, let me tell you something. I am first of all, that is hard to do. If you're pressing down with one hand, here's what happens.
Yeah, you aren't pressing down far enough.
I can't, obviously. I have an old
Well, I know. I totally understand. I got a bottle like that for Mother. There was no way she was going to get in. I finally managed to get in, and it is just managing to push down at the right place and then turn immediately. But then, guess what I did? I put them in a baggie and threw the bottle in with it, so you knew what it was, but threw the cap away. So I don't know what good that is, because people, you can't make it so that elderly can't get in it. And one of the things is it's simply a matter of strength of hands, which is the first thing to go.
Right. And I thought, well, maybe there's a way to do it 2 hands. With my left hand, I'm going to push down. With my right hand, I'm going to twist. But that doesn't work either, because I can't get the right kind of, I can't do it. I just can't do it. I'm losing my mind. Wait, did I do it? No, I didn't. Okay, so I'm just saying, this is maddening. And everybody knows what I'm talking about. And you don't even have to be an old fart like me to end up in this situation. And what if you're desperate? And what pain in older people often is arthritic pain.
Well, and here's the other thing. So our Mother is on a prescription that when they give her 90 days worth, they simply keep it in the bottle it came in, which is a white plastic bottle with a white top. It makes it look like a vitamin. And it's just got a little flap of a prescription code that they stuck on the side. Well, it's the only medication she actually has that she needs to take. And she never recognizes it as a medication because, I don't know, she's 101. And she has been trained that prescriptions come in a brown, clear bottle.
Correct.
So today I'm going to go and request that they open the bottle and spill it into a bottle and give it to me. And I'm going to reprimand them because what they're doing is a safety hazard.
Well, I wouldn't say reprimand them, Susan. I would just say, tell them what, this is troublesome for my mother. Is that a reprimand?
Yes.
Oh, reprimand seems so.
I mean, they know how old she is.
Authoritative. Yeah. Well, okay. All right.
Well, you have to. This is CVS that won't take things off of auto refill, no matter how many times you tell them.
I know. I even once called. I was told I had to go to the corporate headquarters to get him to stop bothering me. If you're sick and a doctor gives you a prescription for that specific illness, and then you get rid of that specific illness. They still, for the rest of your life, try to fill a medicine that you do not need. They badger you in text messages. They bother you with phone calls. Oh, God. All right, we'll stop. I said mundane, and I meant mundane. And I still can't get this.
How's your headache, though?
The headache's fine. Although, as I started revisiting this, it almost came back. Oh. So I don't know what to do. I'm gonna wait. I think maybe when the dog walker comes back, because she's a young, strong person, I'm gonna ask her.
Yeah. and then put it in a baggie with the bottle so you know what it is. And throw away the top.
Okay, well then there's that. Now, Susan had mentioned something about this newspaper in Kansas.
Marion.
And this story broke when we were together in Green Bay, so we've already discussed it amongst ourselves because we were so appalled and blown away by the jackbooty authoritarian fascist thuggery of the
don't try this in a small town attitude.
I mean, you don't have cops breaking into newspaper offices and newsrooms
and
in
private
the United
homes,
States of America, and the private homes, right? And grabbing reporters' telephones, computers, and all because there was one angry person in town who obviously was on very good terms with the chief of police, who obviously was on very good terms with the judge who gave him the warrant, because all of this happened like lickety split. And the crime supposedly was getting hold of this citizen, this irate citizen's drunk driving record.
And guess what? She, because it is a she, is in a nasty divorce with her husband. And it is widely believed that the tipster to the newspaper was the estranged husband. So,
sure.
So there is a constitutional prohibition against seizing newspaper stuff. I mean, for very important reasons, and therefore you cannot go there without a search warrant. I mean, without a subpoena. It has to be a subpoena outlining what you want, why you want it, and why you have a right to it. They cannot simply allege that there's something illegal going on, ask for a search warrant, and get it. That is unconstitutional. It is prohibited. There is an asterisk. This is what I was saying. It's if they were, doing something criminal and blah, 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 which they were not. They did not. She was alleging identity fraud. She was alleging identity fraud. They then went to the judge, said, they committed identity fraud. Give me a search warrant. They had never been convicted of any such thing. No. And in fact, that wasn't the case. Apparently, the estranged husband gave him the info. Well, somebody did. They got a tip, which is what happens. Not to mention that criminal records are, as a rule, a matter of public record. Public record, right, exactly. And the allegation was that she drives all over the place and she has no license, which is all true. And they didn't print the story. They never published it, right. This newspaper never printed it, so everybody in town. No, but they never printed it, but she goes to the city council and in public comment starts yelling at them for outing her driving record. That they reported. That's what happened. She outed herself. They reported that. Then they come in, raid them, and take them out. And then the 98-year-old publisher drops dead. So let me just say this. Here's what someone who is trying to parse this says. Look, if you're the cops, you're the law. You can't say, I'm allowed to raid the newsroom because I'm investigating a crime. You can't do that if the crime you're investigating is journalism. That's it in a nutshell. Although it is true, this horrific thing killed somebody. It killed the mother of the publisher. The 98, he had come back to live with his mom after retiring
from he was a journalism professor for years. He was a reporter for the Milwaukee Journal. He has a long history in journalism. And he came back to Marion, where his mom was, and he bought this newspaper and a few other little papers because his whole life has been being a journalist. And when they came to his mother's house where he was living and started grabbing stuff, this 98-year-old woman, you can imagine the stress. You can imagine her thinking, what is going on? I mean, she lived 98 years and never had cops banging and barging into her house and grabbing things for no reason at all. She was dead 24 hours later. Now, I don't know that you can prove that, but it sure as hell appears that that illegal raid on her house killed her.
Well, it certainly ended in her death. And as her son says, at the very least, the last day of my mother's life was being tortured, was spent having her tortured.
Can you imagine this poor guy? So now he's trying to defend, keep his paper alive. He insists he'll get the paper out tomorrow, even though the computers are gone, everything else is gone. And his mom died. So I can't imagine. He ain't no spring chicken either.
No, and meanwhile, he's like us.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same situation. And the police chief is just blustering. When all the facts come out, you'll see. Yeah, but no, we're seeing.
Well, one of the things that had gotten the ire of the police chief, which is why he was so quick, I suppose, to want to take action, was that when he came to town, which is just in the last year, he's new, the paper did a story about his past employment. Now, I don't know. I have no idea.
Checkered past?
Probably. I would imagine probably. Right?
Beware small town police chiefs and their deputies. They're usually undertrained and unable to be employed in better regulated police departments. At least that's the way it is in Missouri. And the interesting thing about Kansas is it's right next to Missouri.
Well, look, I think there's plenty of people who don't belong in the police and leading them in bigger cities too. God.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
I try not to tar with a fat brush. I really mean it.
But they did apparently were asking questions about his employment history. So
that's what newspapers do.
Listen, and this little newspaper is one of the few that's still around. Small towns don't have, big towns don't have newspapers. And we always say that unless there are newspapers, you can't have a democracy. And I know who said it. One of the founding fathers said that newspapers were the most important aspect of a democracy. The people had to be informed so that they could keep an eye on the government. And now in this case, the government was trying to close down the people who are keeping an eye on them. So this is such an outrageous, un-American breach that even the friggin' Wall Street Journal's publisher, Dow Jones, joined with the New York Times, the Washington Post, and every paper in the country to condemn the action, even before hearing whatever this idiot police chief
is claiming. No, he's just in trouble.
He's in over his head. The other part is that the Kansas attorney general, who is an idiot and a Trumper.
Right.
He brought the state behind it, and so you gotta. I don't know. This is all the kind of stuff that fascist and authoritarian governments engage in, and we didn't used to see it, and now we're seeing it left, right, and center. I saw that.
And the scary part is that these people are so shocked that they are not entitled to do what they're doing. They seem to honestly believe that they have the power, they are in control. Someone's telling them that.
It's really something. Speaking of news and who is available to disseminate it, there's an interesting little bit, and it ain't going to get anywhere, I'm quite sure. But one of the men who is responsible for the horror of Fox News existence is a guy named Preston Padden.
Preston who?
Padden, Padden.
Of course it is Preston Padden.
Padden. He and Rupert Murdoch were pals, and they have been literally friends and together forever. Padden, when Murdoch was trying to get Fox News up and running, Padden was the guy who did it for him, who greased the skids. He's now 74 years old. He's retired. And he has joined a nonprofit called Media and Democracy Project. Guess what he's now doing?
He's trying to undermine democracy because through the media.
No. He's done a 180. He's trying
to undo the harm he caused?
To get the FCC to deny the renewal of Fox's license to operate one of its largest stations, the one in Philadelphia, because their license comes up for renewal. He said it's not just this one, it's just that this one is the first one we're going after. And they're going after it, saying they do not have the right or the character required to be a license holder.
They're going back to those old rules.
Because of the dissemination of misinformation.
There was a public service requirement to being allowed to broadcast.
Yes. But the FCC is the most toothless agency in the government, and has I don't know if a station has never lost its license, but this probably won't.
Well, Preston, good luck to you.
Yeah, but that's interesting, isn't it? At this late stage in his life, this is his statement. Fox has undermined our democracy and has radicalized a segment of our population by presenting knowingly false narratives about the legitimacy of our 2020 election. And he says Fox did this intentionally, knowing they were distorting the news. This is unbelievable. I mean, you can, I guess his friendship with
Murdoch is over because he can bring all of his personal information to bear.
Wow.
I mean, I'm sure if he's as close as you say, that he could testify to a whole bunch of things and it wouldn't be hearsay.
Yeah. Actually, some of the emails before Padden did this, he was still buddies with Murdoch. I mean, he was still doing emails back and forth with him But he was doing email saying to Murdoch, hey, buddy, you got to direct Carlson and Hannity and Ingram to, they have got to tell the viewers that Trump lost the election. So, and this, his texts to Murdoch were part of the Dominion lawsuit, which, of course,
they lost.
Fox essentially lost by having to settle. And so his emails to Murdoch showed that, you know, Murdoch knew, failed to take action. So he did help Dominion and helped undermine Fox at that point when he was still on speaking terms and was saying that to Murdoch as, I guess, a friend. He's a lifelong Republican. He's lifelong conservative Republican. He directed, oh God, I mean, he's just his, if you look at it, you know, he's just dyed in the wool. And he still likes Murdoch. He says he bears no animus toward him, but he says Fox has done grievous harm to the country. Huh.
Well, good luck. I've been screaming for years. How are they getting out? I mean, I've had that conversation. Don't you remember when we were all invited?
Yeah. Well, and one other thing, that little tidbit that I think is interesting. There is something that the article, this is from the Washington Post, does mention that I think might be, I bet this is it, at the heart of his turn. A close family member of this guy, Patton, and a longtime family friend, both have succumbed to Fox News dementia. And he doesn't ever say who they are, but it is something that has made him just so angry and so he grieves the loss of these two friends' minds because of Fox spewing crap. You know, this happens. A lot of families have seen this, you know. Their once wonderful mother or father is now a raving, crazed
families
idiot.
Are split in two between, you know, by the people that can't believe that the other people believe the way they do.
So the reality is that the odds are this is not going to. Here's a guy who deals with the FCC all the time. The short answer is they almost never, ever, ever. It's a torturous process. And Rarely does a station lose its license. They don't say where.
Yeah, but rarely do you have, if the process is the problem, then what it requires is dogged, funded work. And if this guy is dogged and he can self-fund, well, then they're in trouble.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's not him. It's part of this group.
Right.
Media, and,
right.
You know,
right.
Which you, when I said the word, you immediately assumed it was one of these right-wing outfits.
Well, that means the exact opposite of what it says.
Exactly. Yeah. But in this case, it is what.
Yeah. Well,
anyway.
They should put an asterisk, and we mean it.
Oh, you know what else I saw today which drove me crazy? Is sort of in the same thing as the ibuprofen cap. Have you ever, you're always being told you have to wear sunscreen, and then it keeps the SPF, she keeps going up. I used to think 30 was like, whoa. Now it's like 50 or more, you're as good as dead of cancer. And you know what, there's not any of them. When I do, sometimes I'll put it on my hands and forearms, if I'm out walking the dog. And there's no way you can totally get it in. You look like you have white paint on your arms. And who wants to look like that? You don't. You wouldn't put it on your face walking around. You look like, those pictures of Queen Elizabeth I, with like painted white face. So I read today that in Asia, in Europe, in other places, there are sunscreens available to anybody over the counter that go on smoothly, transparently, are wondrous, and don't in any way do what the crap we're selling here. We're able to get here. And the reason is the FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, which, because sunscreens say they prevent cancer, has authority over them as a medical product. And they have refused over the last 15 years to okay any of these ingredients that are being used in Asia and Europe.
Why? Who are they manufactured by, and
I don't know.
Which corporations are lobbying this?
Or bureaucracies, or whatever, pharmaceuticals.
No, you follow the money. Somebody's lobbying this.
Okay, so whatever. And guess who's onto this? Because she's pissed off since she encountered the other stuff in Europe, and she says it's unbelievable.
Bobby Brown. Who?
AOC.
Oh, yay!
She says there is no reason for this. So she's actually trying to kick the government in some way to speed up having this stuff available. But knowing that, then maybe there's a way to get it on because, here's what happens. I then don't use it.
Well, exactly. Me either. It's
right.
Plus, if you get it anywhere near your eyes, or you don't wash your hands after you put it on and you touch your eyes, they're stinging beyond belief. And if you've washed your hands, now it's off your hands.
That is correct. You got all that right. So, again, I mean, it's just another one of these things that you find out, like, what?
Well, that's why I wear big hats and long sleeves and long pants and shoes. I'm just covered at all times.
Well, you understand that those rays can get through your clothes.
No, not if they're SPF'd.
Yes, but so what? God almighty. So here, yeah. I'm just saying.
Well, you saw my long sleeve bathing suit.
Yeah, Susan has a beautiful bathing suit with long sleeves. Yeah. Well, I love it.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. Okay, so there was that. And then the other good news, which will be, believe me, totally blown to bits, is the win for the kids in Montana.
Yes, isn't it wonderful?
Oh, my God.
But that's also because Montana has it written into its constitution.
That's right.
That they are entitled to a safe and healthy environment.
Yeah, and see, that's not, I don't think our constitution here in Pennsylvania has that, but that is what they have. And that passed in that red state. That constitutional amendment passed in 1972 with widespread popular support from Republicans, or it never would have made it. And that was because a lot of Republicans care mightily about, the beauty.
Montanans care about the state of Montana and keeping other folks out and keeping it pristine.
Right.
Which doesn't add with mountains, because if you're driving around, you see them,
So but unfortunately, Montana is only one of a handful of states, and I don't know who the others are, to establish in their constitution. And here's what it says, that the state should, quote, maintain and improve a clean and healthful environment in Montana for present and future generations. So, for the judge to say that Montana's government was engaging in unconstitutional practices is correct, because they are not allowing they don't allow
the considerations for harm to the environment to affect legislature when granting licensing for coal.
For mining and coal.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Consideration was the word I was totally blanked on. Yeah. So, but here's what we know, right? This is going now to this will go straight to the Montana Supreme Court. Now, I don't know the makeup of the Montana Supreme Court, so who the hell knows? I mean, I don't know. But, geez, if it's right there in their constitution.
Yeah, I don't know what they can do about it.
Well,
I mean, how do they parse it if that's what it says? Well, it'll be interesting to see. Because it's rather clear cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what can it possibly mean?
So I would think then that, cases like this have not fared as well as this. So I just want to say that this judge, God bless her. God bless her. Because a lot of these things get dismissed. They don't even make it, but they don't have that provision in very big letters in the Constitution. Yeah. And that's the difference. So let's hope that that's the beginning of something. It's bound to, I would think, encourage other young people. It's also going to continue to radicalize the young generation and politicize them, in that they are becoming true activists. And that is where my hope lies. You know, we were just with my brother who is such a pessimist and is always throwing in the towel. And I have that inclination myself, but you know, the young people are pretty amazing, I think. I do too. Well, they're fighting for their very survival and their right to have children themselves. Yeah. I mean, this group is called, the group behind the suit is called Our Children's Trust. And they have attempted to put these cases in every state in the union. And there are right now 4 cases pending where I guess they've been allowed. Well, here's actually one in Hawaii. They have a case against the Hawaii Department of Transportation, and that goes to trial in June. Speaking of Hawaii. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Wow. I'll tell you, man, heads are going to roll. I mean, well, and the problem is that it's so toxic there. I mean, there is asbestos everywhere. And there's when you do, I don't know how you're remediating that is going to take forever. It's not safe to be there. So even if by some chance your place is left standing, you still can't get there. Or you shouldn't be there. And you shouldn't be there. And you shouldn't be there. So I just don't know. But did I see that the governor said that they expect to find as many as 10 bodies a day for the next 10 days?
I think. Well, I heard a number like there as many as 1,000 that are just in their houses.
They're going to end. Well, they're gone. I mean,
that's how many are missing, right? Without a trace, right?
So that's essentially got cremated. There's nothing there but ash. So how do you even make that determination? It's just unbelievable.
Well,
but
that's
the sirens didn't
when
go off, and the water pressure failed, and the public utility, the
didn't
water
cut the electricity.
Up. The electric, didn't cut the electric. Nobody, and I mean, I suspect that a lot of this is because it moved so quickly, and nobody had ever experienced. This is what's going to keep happening all over. No one had ever experienced anything like this. And so it's not like they knew the drill, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. I can't imagine the horror of it.
It's just terrible. And the police commissioner's defending his actions not to let people in, and screaming at some of the reporters asking the questions saying, "What do you people think you're walking on?"
What do you mean?
He's trying to explain to them that they're walking on the remains of the people that didn't get away, and he's trying to identify them. I mean, he's got tears coming down his eyes. He's trying to explain to them, please have a little respect for what that is.
Well, this horrific explosion, the house explosion here,
that was not gas.
It wasn't?
Well, I thought they ruled that out immediately.
No, I don't think anything's been ruled out. I don't know. I don't think so, no. But it turns out that the borough, the borough's manager was one of the dead. And another person who worked in the local government is among the dead. And for some reason, it seems like, a few of them were in the house that exploded, as if, you can't engage in speculation, but it's the same kind of instance there where there's nothing left to be. The fire, the intensity of the explosion, there's just nothing there. Just unbelievable.
Well, and it also blew sky high, so it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Wow. So, as the bumper stickers say, shit happens, right? The same. Oh
no, but it is. You're just sort of. Well, it's a beautiful day here. I'll say that.
Yeah, it is. It appears to be here. Well, it was. There was sun, and I'm glad. Get Mom in the pool. Is she getting her?
Well, it's got to warm up. It was like 54 this morning. Yeah.
Whoa. Wow. Well, all righty. Suze.
Did we do it?
I think we did.
This is like when I'm boxing and I've got a minute to go. I go, good enough.
I know. I'm not watching the clock here. No, it's just that I have all this other stuff, but there's no way I'm going to do it in a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
there's always tomorrow.
That's right. And we can do a long goodbye, which is what we've done. Because now it says the clock has changed and we can legally say that's it.
Bye-bye.
So, okay. Bye, Sue.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. And I'll be back tomorrow, too. And we'll deal with all the other stuff in the news. It used to be hard, this job, because sometimes you really had to dig. And I used to do 3 hours to fill, find enough stuff. And man, that's not the problem anymore. It's, shielding oneself from the deluge of just constant, big, consequential use. Be careful out there. Have a good one.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.